Gorman in the morning, Minnesota's 92 KQRS promise. Mike Mills is joining us on the horn tomorrow night at First Ave, the Big Star Quintet show. Michael, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Steve.
It is a pleasure to talk to you about this gig. We've been talking about Big Star on the show. I've done my best to explain the significance of this band in many other artists' lives. As a member of R.E.M., you guys are how I found out about Big Star and reading in interviews and reference points along the way. So were you aware of Big Star in real time in the early 70s?
I was not. I lived in Macon, Georgia, and in the early 70s, you're not aware of much except for the Allman Brothers, country music, and the blues, maybe some gospel.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, Peter Buck turned me on to Big Star once we started hanging out in 1979,
Mm-hmm.
and I immediately said, "Holy cow! This is if I could make records, these are the records I would make, or something very much like this." So, immediate and REM always believed in spreading the gospel of bands that we loved that had been underheard by the world at large, and
Mm-hmm.
we really enjoyed turning people like because it's so much fun to get turned on to great new music that you just didn't know about. So we're always trying to do that, and it doesn't get any better than Big Star.
Yeah, I remember the first time I listened to an album, and I don't know any musician that didn't have that same experience. There's something about these records, specifically the first two, that are just so instantly familiar and yet mind blowing the first time you hear them.
Yeah, this it's a lot of it is just about the songs. They're such good songs. That's what
Mm-hmm.
inspired Peter and I, because we always really put songwriting up at the peak of things we were trying to do. But the sound is amazing. John Fry, who was sort of basically their producer, was very innovative, had some amazing ideas and techniques that just make this thing sound like, nothing ever sounded really before or since.
So the Big Star Quintet, you guys do have Jody Stevens, the original drummer, one of the founding members, the only one left from the band. How long have you been a part of this operation?
Actually got started. Big Star was supposed to play in their latest incarnation with Alex and Jody and Ken Stringfellow and John Auer. They were going to play at South by Southwest, and the week before that, Alex had a heart attack and died.
Mm-hmm.
So Jody, whom I've known forever, called me up and he said, "Mike, we're going to turn this show into a memorial for Alex. Will you come down and play?" I said, "Of course I will." And at that point, Chris Stamey started getting the idea of doing Big Star's third record, which is a different breed of cat from the first two.
Sure.
But we sort of got that going and had all these revolving guests come in and do these great Big Star third songs. And we ran that for a while. And then now we're down to a quintet, a lean, mean music machine. And we're doing a little of all of their stuff. We do
Mm-hmm.
about a 2 hour set. It's a lot of music. And, honestly, you won't believe this, and it's not because it's too loud. I see grown men crying out there. This music is so dear to people's hearts that even just hearing us redo it makes them cry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fantastic.
I'm not surprised to hear that. I heard from several people in Nashville after your gig there a couple nights ago. Uh, I woke up to text messages saying, "Man, this show was incredible." So it doesn't surprise me. I don't know anybody that likes Big Star that doesn't actually love Big Star. It is very, very important music to people.
And it's so good. And also, the tragic story behind it, which is that they put out two of, in my mind, the best rock records ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And it went nowhere because of circumstance and record companies and in human frailty and idiots. And as a result, these two great records were never heard. Chris Bell quit after the first one in frustration.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very compelling story, but really what makes it work is the music and the fact that those of us that are playing it just love it so much. We love playing with Jody as the last surviving member,
Yeah.
and we just love doing these songs.
Big Star Quintet at First Ave tomorrow night. You guys, I think for a lot of people, if that are coming to the show, if they're not familiar with every song, they will hear things. This is stamped in so much of the music that of my generation, your band REM, the Replacements, obviously. I mean, there's a song called Alex Chilton, for crying out
Right.
loud. Paul Westerberg also sang the Big Star, Wave That Flag. But countless bands who made their mark in the 80s and 90s trace their stuff right back to these records.
Yes, Cheap Trick being probably the foremost among them. They even did a version of "In the Street" for that '70s show as the
Right.
theme song. That's a Big Star song. Um, and September Girls is one of the best classic pop songs ever written, and I think a
Hmm.
lot of people have heard that one. Yeah, and the thing is, even if you haven't heard it, you might feel like you have because they're just
Yep.
so good and they're so from the heart that they sound familiar even if they're not.
Mike Mills is with us on Gorman in the morning. Let's go back to the REM days. First time in the Twin Cities. Do you remember the gig, where it
I
was?
do. Um,
What jumped out about
well, it
this
was
area?
Well, first of all, driving to Minneapolis was weird. I'd never been that far north, and here I am driving through all these empty prairies, and all of a sudden there's this big city there. I said, "People live here? This is amazing." So, I'm callow youth there at that point. But we were booked into First Ave for some reason. We were probably 79 or 80. Nobody had ever heard of us.
Hmm.
I don't know why we weren't at the entry, but we were in First Ave, and it was Thanksgiving, and it was freezing, and the only place open for dinner was a Greek restaurant, and so it was a very powerful emotional experience. And then we played to maybe 35 or 40 people at First Avenue, but we tore it up and
Yeah.
made an impression, and we're invited back.
Definitely one of the great music towns, especially in that era. You guys were such a big part of the DIY, sort of making it up as you go, but doing things your own way. And there was no shortage of bands in this area that were right there alongside you guys.
Yeah, it was so much fun to come up there and connect with, the Replacements and the Suburbs and Soul
Hmm.
Asylum and Husker Du. I mean, it's countless. It's very much like Athens in that sense that there was I hate the word scene, but yet there was a
Yeah.
great scene going on that was very insular and very, city focused. And I think that really helps musicians feed off each other and go be inspired to form bands and make more music.
You continue to make a lot of music. You're doing the Big Star Quintet shows. You're going to be back here pretty soon with the baseball project, I believe.
Um,
Is that right or wrong?
well, we usually play Minneapolis when we're on tour, and we are on tour in September. I'd be surprised if we're not playing Minnie, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are. Maybe I'm making that up. It's something I think I came across that you'll be here. Yes, at the Fine Line in
Oh,
September.
okay. Oh,
So
great, good.
tomorrow night, First Ave, Big Star Quintet. You, Pat Sansone, Chris Stamey, Jody Stevens, the original drummer of Big Star, and I'm spacing
John
on the
Hour.
fifth. John Hour. That's
Yep,
exactly right. That's a crackerjack lineup.
that's the band.
I'm looking very forward to it. As always, it's going to be a pleasure to see you, brother.
And the same to you, Steve. Looking
All
forward.
right. Thanks for calling in.